Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. I am so excited to be filming another quick tips video. So today is all about interviews. Interviews are so important in the job search process. It is essentially, your opportunity to show the company that you're interviewing with that you are the best candidate for the job. And it can be either really successful or I've seen these go the other way. So I've actually interviewed a ton in my time. I've had so many, internships and jobs over the past few years, and that's really given me a lot of kind of opportunity to pick up these tips. And I've also been on the other side of the desk. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've been to career fairs. I've had one-on-one interviews for interns. So I have seen it all, at least I like to think, and I am excited to share these tips with you today. But before that, I just want to remind you that if you do have any questions or video recommendations, make sure to leave them in the comments below or find me on Instagram at MissMotivate, where you can send me a DM for any future videos you'd like to see. So without further ado, let's get into it. So tip number one, research the company you're interviewing with. I can't stress this enough. It is so common in an interview that you will hear questions like, what do you like about our company? Why do you want to work for us? What do you know about us? What types of, things do you see in our industries, and how would you improve upon that? These questions are disguised in a million different ways, but really what it boils down to is, do you know what we do and what we sell and who we're selling to? So research the company. I mean, it's so easy now with the internet. It's literally, you could spend 5 to 10 minutes on Google and probably know the company pretty well just doing that. So research the company. It is very critical in the interview that you have that foundation. And I, again, would say this is one of the most important tips because you'll see it come on time and time again in every single interview. So the second tip I have is look and research what types of kind of common questions interviewers ask. So the ones that I've always kind of asked, or ones that I've been asked, are things like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Or tell me about a time, this is a very common one, tell me about a time where you succeeded in so-and-so, or tell me about a time when you failed in so-and-so. So my tip here is have 3 or 4 answers and 3 or 4 stories for each type of question that you can kind of interchange. So for example, with a strength and weakness question, I could say that I'm a very strong delegator, and that could be one of my strengths. But I could also say, in the same breath, delegating has historically been a weakness of mine, but I'm going to spin it. So this is key. You always want to have a positive spin with these types of questions. But, I did a group project, and I realized through this group project that I really have to, have an organized thought process and, really work to enhance the skills of others to better the team. Perfect answer. So always have a positive spin, but also know a couple different anecdotes that you can pull from going into these types of questions, and, have stories that you can share and questions and answers that you can really interchange to suit whatever the nature of this question might be. And you can, again, do a simple Google search and look up, most common interview questions. Like I said, strengths, weaknesses, tell me about a time. Depending on the industry you're in also, if it's a more analytical type of role, you might get a more analytical type of question. Like, for the American Airlines arena that holds 300 or 3,000 people, how many gallons of paint would you need? And they want to see your thought process. Or if it's a more communications type role, it might be a question like, explain Facebook to your grandfather. So again, prepare answers to questions that are also tailored around the position that you're applying to, but also know some of those more common ones going in. And then tip number 3 is establish rapport with the person who is interviewing you. So this is really big because I think it is one of those questions or one of those things in an interview that it's really a hit or miss. So I always like to say, there are things you can do that are just gonna easily be wins. So things like holding eye contact, a firm handshake, smiling, and then also just being polished and presentable. Essentially, an interview is so much more than the content. It is really an opportunity for the person interviewing you to figure out, okay, is this someone that I could have a conversation with every morning? Is this someone that I would want to see in my office every morning? Is this someone I'd want to go to, happy hour with? Is this the type of person who, I feel I can trust? Those are the types of skills they're going to be vetting out in the interview. And so it's important for you to not only be confident, but also seem, like the type of person that they could get along with. And hopefully you naturally do bond. But I think there are things you can do to kind of naturally, come off even more confident. And I've, in my history of interviewing people, seen this time and time again where it's, you're so nervous already that you really just close off and it never ends well. So be confident, be smiley, try to be the best version of yourself and seem engaged. And of course, manners just, will never do you wrong. It never hurts to say please or thank you, or, any of those kind of polite things that you can do just on a human to human level. So establish rapport. Fourth tip, and this kind of goes back to preparing questions, everything you say should have a positive spin. So whether it's, tell me about a time where you failed, positive spin. For example, you could say, I was working with a group and, we just didn't get it together, but it taught me this. This is what I learned from this. Brings me back to that question that I told you guys about delegating. Delegating is something I've struggled with, but I've been getting better at it through these things. Or I've struggled with time management, but since then have, I've started working through a digital planner, and that's really transformed how I manage my time. There are things that you want to say that show that you are taking steps to grow, because that really tells the interviewer that you are someone that is trainable and you are someone who they can develop. So that is the kind of stuff that you always want to implement no matter what type of question, positive spin. Fifth tip, and this is really the kind of, this is really where it's going to make or break you. Ask questions. So at the end of the interview, almost always they're going to ask you if you have any questions for them. And even if they don't, you want to have some questions lined up. So, take the time to have a couple questions going in, even if they're obvious. This really shows that you're engaged and you are eager to, learn more about their industry. It could be something as simple as, how did you get into this industry? Asking a more personal question like, what do you like about working here? Or something like, if I were to land this internship, what does 10 months down the road lead to? Is this kind of the ultimate job interview? Ask questions like that. It can be about their personal development. It can be about your personal development. It can be something more neutral, like the company, culture. What is, how would you describe the culture here? Is this more work hard, play hard? Are you guys small and nimble? What are those types of things that, that make this company work? And interviewers want to see that. So if you don't have a question, no matter how strong your interview is, that could be the ultimate fall for you. So make sure you have a couple questions lined up. Sixth tip, and I think this is pretty appropriate for a final tip, is follow up with your interviewer after the interview. I would say about 24 to 48 hours, you want to send a thank you note. It can either be, a thank you email. It can, if possible, be a handwritten note, but send a thank you note. In the thank you note, just following up. I wanted to know when you guys are planning on making decisions. By the way, I really enjoyed learning this. I love talking to you. Short, sweet, to the point. Send it though, because interviewers will take note, and I've taken note as well, of who is really interested in working here, who really wants to work here. Those are the types of people that are going to set themselves apart from the crowd. So send a thank you note. And that's it, guys. Those are my 6 essential tips to nailing your interview. Let me know if you implement them or if you have any other questions on interviews. I love talking about interviews. So if you guys, of course, have any comments or feedback, make sure to comment below. And I will see you in my next video. And make sure to follow me on Instagram if you aren't already at Miss Motivate, and subscribe to this channel.